Welcome, WEMF listeners, to another episode of Steve Me Alone on WEMF Radio. That funky noise that you're hearing in your ears right now is a clip from the classic film Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo. They're trying to save the community center. There's a bunch of construction equipment rolling up on the community center, and a bunch of breakdancers just jumped on top of all the construction equipment. They're about to have an encounter with the land developers trying to destroy their community center.
Look at this. Well, never mind that. I said to get this thing moving. Now get it moving. Okay, you're right. Damn right.
Developers yelling at the guy who's driving the bulldozer.
Is there popcorn coming out of the engine area?
No, not yet. Not at this point. Look who's approaching. It's none other than one of the main breakdancers, Turbo. What's he going to do? Oh, he's right in front of the big piece of construction equipment that's trying to knock down their stage where they were breakdancing.
Get away from there, kid.
Developers tell him to get away from there. He's not moving. He's throwing pizza boxes at him. Everybody loves it. He's throwing another pizza box.
Whoa.
The guy driving the bulldozer doesn't know what to do. He's stopping. He's got a mustache. Developer wants him to just run over Turbo and kill him.
No, you're not going home. You wait here. I'll get that kid out of the way.
The land developer says he's going to try to get Turbo out of the way. Oh, but the guys from the construction crew, they're going home because they know they're not going to murder any young people today. Everybody's celebrating. That land developer's angry. He wants them to bring those machines back, but I don't think it's gonna happen. All right, everybody, welcome again to another excellent episode of Steve Me Alone on WEMF Radio. I hope you're all doing well tonight. I've got a couple of special guests on the phone this evening. We've got Maddie Weaver. And Neil Stratos.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So, we are here to talk about some wild and crazy news. Just like in Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo, land developers are now coming after our community center. They're coming after the EMF Building. They're trying to take it down. They want to tear that place apart, put in some new shit, and try to make it a more expensive place for tech people to inhabit or something like that. But some people in the community are not so happy about it, and they've been trying to make some moves to maybe change the course of history on this one. What do you guys think about this? What is EMF to you, Neil and Maddie?
Maddie, please go first.
Maddie, what is EMF to you? What's your experience been there?
EMF is a place where magic is allowed to happen. It's a place that you used to be able to go and sit there and not have to buy anything. And there's very few places actually that I could think of that you could just go there to sit and not have to buy anything.
It's true, it is rare.
You can sit there for as long as you want. And then as long as you're not bothering anyone. And you could just hang out and you know, do something productive rather than go hang out at a stupid bar, get stupid and drunk.
Right, yeah, it is. It does seem like a lot of our society is organized around that, right? Like, there's so few places where you can go and simply get to know other people, talk to other people, and just do what you want to do there, unless you're going there to buy something or to drink booze or, you know, to pay for things.
Yeah, and, you know, in Central Square, it's in particular, it's if you don't go to MIT every year, there is just less physical space that you're allowed to inhabit.
Right. Yeah.
Period.
And to give, like, for anybody who's unfamiliar with what EMF is in general, I mean, it's a music rehearsal space primarily. WEMF Radio used to be located out of the EMF building until it was purchased by a new company called Ledgemore a couple of years ago. Somehow something happened where Ledgemore sort of forced William Desmond out of the lease that he had on the building. They went until 2020, and nobody's really clear on the details of how that happened or what went down. Apparently, there were non-disclosure agreements that were signed, but WEMF Radio had to move to its new location here in Brighton after it was pushed out of the EMF building, which was, an art space, a music space, a place with art galleries, a place with different rooms where people could do different things, work on different things, work on video, work on practicing their music, make paintings, hang out in Elvin's office and just get to know other people or just talk to Elvin about your daily goings-on. Elvin had a recording studio on the second floor, but now, unfortunately, we have found ourselves at a juncture where people have purchased the building and they simply want to throw the community out. So I don't know, Neil, what was EMF to you?
Man, EMF was like an answer from God, man, itself, man. It was like a community. It was a place to go practice. It was everything, man. It was awesome, dude.
Yeah, I don't think you're the only one who feels that way. It seems like hundreds of people
did. It was a home, especially for troubled people like me, dude. It was excellent.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the other thing.
Man,
Is
like finding the EMF building changed my life around.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I mean, it's rare to find a place that functions as a community in this day and age with that many people. A place where, I mean, there's so many social benefits to that. To everyone involved, because people can get together and they can come up with new ideas and they can work on collaborations together. I mean, furthermore, there were a whole lot of people who came into EMF who might have been in troubled places in their lives, and those people, if they were somewhere else, I mean, things might not have gone so well for them. It was always sort of a place where one thing I always noted was that the police were almost never needed, despite the fact that there were thousands of people coming in and out of the building, more or less because, if people were fucking up too badly, their actions would be corrected. Somebody would make them realize that they needed to change what they were doing. And if it got too bad, they'd be asked to leave. But, it was pretty rare for anybody to even be thrown out of the place.
Yeah, man. There was a lot of respect at the EMF, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Respect is a word.
It's just oozed of creativity in every single corner, man.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it sucks. It sucks. It's happening all over the country, it seems like, where, there are upper middle class people and tech companies that want to move into cities. And hey, that's all well and good. I'm happy to have all kinds of people in cities. But, when this kind of thing happens, there are these companies that have a lot of capital and they want more. And, they don't really, they're not necessarily evil, but they are amoral and they exist to attempt to generate more profits. And so then we arrive at a situation like the one we have now, where everybody thought that a company called Ledgemore owned the building, which I guess is technically true, but it turns out Ledgemore is a shell corporation. Apparently the building was being managed by Trinity Property Management, which is a company owned by this guy, John P. DiGiovanni, who is the president of the Harvard Square Business Association. But I didn't know that Trinity Property Management had anything to do with it until those eviction notices got sent out. And of course, if you Google Trinity Property Management, you can find out a lot of interesting things. You can find out that John P. DiGiovanni back in the 90s was hell-bent on getting a Dunkin' Donuts installed in Harvard Square, but he was more or less driven away by, I think it was called the Harvard Defense Fund. It was basically people who were trying to maintain the character of Harvard Square back in those days.
I think I've seen the Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that ship has sailed a long time ago. Yeah, in the end, it seems like John P. DiGiovanni and his friends won, and, they're raking in the money, I suppose, despite the fact that I'm sure a lot of people... I don't know, a lot of people I've talked to, they talk about Harvard Square as it used to be, as a really impressive, magical place, whereas, increasingly now it is a place for big chain stores and chain restaurants, and there's not really that much unique or spontaneous or exciting that happens there, it seems now.
Yeah,
I see no reason to...
Yeah, the virus has spread now all the way up to Central Square,
Yeah.
That place isn't what it used to be 5 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, it was like that was the most rapid like neighborhood change I feel like I've ever seen or heard about. Like in 5 years, it's like the place is completely unrecognizable.
Right.
Like what it used to be.
Yeah. It's changed completely. And I mean, just, for anybody who might be listening who doesn't understand the geography of this whole situation, the EMF building is located between MIT and Harvard. So it's located between these, two big, well-known universities. And, from a certain point of view, that's great. Education is great. But unfortunately, it seems like increasingly in recent years, what's come along with those kinds of institutions is a lot of big money and a lot of people trying to cash in, and just a kind of development that has been forcing poor people out of where they live and artists out of where they practice and have their communities. And so here we are. So, I don't know what's going to be left after this if something can't be done.
I mean, apparently nothing in Cambridge, dude, because that would take the last active space like that in Cambridge, right?
I think
and
so,
going
yeah.
away rapidly, dude. Like, what else is there in the state of? I mean, like nearby, we got Cambridge, we got Brighton, which is full. There's like a practice space over there. There's one in Shoutstown, and there's one in the other, the right there in Brighton too, dude. There's like 3 that I can think of, dude. That are still local.
Yeah, not too much left. I mean, it's really unfortunate.
Demand for practice rooms are going to go up, man.
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, it just seems like the soul is kind of getting pushed out of this city, which is really too bad. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the new people moving in 10 years will be fine with it if that's the way things go. Maybe that's all they want is just like, manicured bars to go to and jobs. Like, I don't know.
Don't you think that it's like healthy for a society where like there's a lot of different kinds of people in one area? Like it's kind of for all of these people who are, going to MIT or going to Harvard or whatever, or going to college, and like living in their, world where they never see anything other than other college students and a Target and, these like fancy seafood jazz bars.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Don't you think that, so these are like the people who are going to be deciding everything for everybody, Like, don't you think that they should see a poor person every once in a while? Like a poor person who like
yeah, that might provide
maybe
some...
doesn't deserve to be poor, or like somebody who's just like playing music on the street for no reason, or people who are just like enjoying life because like just for the sake of enjoying life. Like it's so weird to think that those people are just going to be isolated among themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it might provide some perspective for them to see people who are different from them, to see people who have more difficult lives than they have. Because that's a huge portion of this country, are people who are living somewhat difficult lives like that, And yeah, you're right. I mean, it's going to be, it seems like that's where it's going with this, just a city like this turning into an isolated sort of place for people who, are well-to-do to hang out and to never have to see the undesirables or something,
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Excuse me.
But I don't know. All right. So what do you guys know about? It seems like John P. DiGiovanni appears to have been attempting to spread a false narrative about there being fire hazards in the EMF building. Have you guys heard about this?
Yeah,
I have. But what was the details on that again?
Well, I mean, so far as I understand, all right, so what I saw, Michael Moonstein from the Central Square Business Association, who I've met, who seems like a good guy, I guess he met with John P. DiGiovanni from, who's kicking everybody out of EMF and is from the Harvard Square Business Association. He met with him along with some city council person. And from what Michael said, John DiGiovanni was saying that there are fire hazards in the building, that the sprinklers aren't at the right height, and you read that and you're like, oh, well, maybe it does make sense to be making people leave the building because they have to fix these important fire hazards. But the thing is, multiple people have called the fire department, and the fire department says there are no fire problems with the building. So, you know.
And I'm sure that so when they bought the building, they made, like, we have all this beautiful art that was on the walls, like like a bunch of paintings and like watercolors and you know, just mixed media art on the wall.
Yes, yeah, it really set the mood for the place.
Apparently, that was a fire hazard, and the fire department wanted that down.
That seems like psychological warfare to me, dude, because that was ridiculous. That they actually made us strip down the walls of the EMF building, a beautiful place to walk through, dude.
What building doesn't have art in it? Like, what building is not allowed to have art hanging on the wall?
Right, exactly.
That was
fire hazard.
Warfare, dude. They started attacking our own, like, they started invading our own home and making us take down paint. It was painful. I remember the first couple days after all the paints came down from the building, dude. It was painful to walk through. It was like a depressing thing, dude. Like, they did that, and that alone is like, it's like an act of war to me, man.
Right, because people had made it.
I'm saying, like, this is our building.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, whatever you had before we owned the building, it's gone.
Right. Because people had spent years, like, making that into a beautiful, interesting place to inhabit and to meet people in and to work in. And, you know, the halls were lined with Elvin Long's artwork, which is great stuff, you know, much of which is these collages inspired by his upbringing outside of Detroit, Michigan, and, you know, some beautiful watercolors that he's done as well. And then, of course, other people had joined in as well. I mean, Jess Jarva's bird paintings were up there, and Katie Baker's various, you know, yarn projects and things like that. And, yeah, I don't know. I mean, who knows? Maybe there was... But, yeah, it's like, then you hear about this guy, John DiGiovanni, making up false things about fire hazards. It's like, all right, so who decided those paintings were fire hazards before? Was it really the fire department? Because Des had a good relationship with the fire department. They used to come through and check the place out, and he told me that they made sure, they would go through with the lights off and get to know the lay of the building, because it's kind of an odd labyrinthine building. So, yeah, it does leave you wondering, right? Like, was it just that John DiGiovanni decided that, like, the beautiful artwork that made the place kind of like a home to some people was a fire hazard, you know? Who made that call?
Like, we were told that, like, the fire department was coming to do inspections, like, every other week.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there was this whole narrative of this fire danger that was going on, apparently. And then also, I mean, I don't really know the details, and I don't know if anybody does, but apparently there was some kind of surveillance going on where people from the company were watching the building or something. I mean, that's just bizarre.
Yeah, I know about that. It was to get dirt on Des or whatever happens in the building, so that they could take him to court and break his lease. He had a lease until 2020.
Yeah, try to find some minor violation.
So
Des, break his lease over.
For people who don't know, William Desmond, he was leasing the building before they sold it. And he was leasing the building, and he was renting all of the rooms. So that was his business. It was just the landlord that owned the building. Now, when the building changed hands, he still had a lease until 2020. But they took him, the Ledgemore or Trinity Property Management or whatever, took Des to court to break his lease so that they could collect the rent directly and then eventually evict all of us with 2 months' notice.
Right. And, I've heard stories of people being told that, they'd have another 6 years in the building. Ruby Rose Fox apparently was told she'd have another 6 years in the building, so she brought a baby grand piano into the building, which is, a heavy, serious instrument. Yeah. And so now she's dealing with the fact that, like, that thing has to get moved somehow, and this could cost her thousands of dollars, and, like, who knows how many stories like that there are.
Yeah, and a lot of artists in there, like, they were only given like 2 months to move out, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Like 2 months to find a place to throw your equipment, like out of nowhere, dude. That's like kind of fucked up.
Yeah. Well, and I mean again, like I don't know. Everybody, all the rent checks were going to Ledgemore, right? And then the eviction notice comes from Trinity Property Management and John P. DiGiovanni. And, it's the most generic eviction notice you can imagine, where it basically says, like, we are only required by law to give you 1 month, but we're giving you 2 months. You have to leave.
Oh, how sweet.
Yeah, how sweet of them, right? Yeah, exactly. One other thing I wanted to get into, this was something that came out a couple of days ago, right? There was an email from John P. DiGiovanni to the city council, and who knows if he actually wrote this thing himself. But this guy's talking a big talk about being a big supporter of the arts vis-a-vis Boston Calling, which is like the big music festival in Boston that doesn't, as I understand it, doesn't really have that much to do with local arts. It's about a bunch of national acts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just thought, like part of this letter here, let me just read a short passage. Part of this letter by him says, as a society, we grow tremendously through the artists and communities that spark conversation, imagination, love, and reason for celebration. So he says that, but at the same time, he's evicting, all these artists from this building, which is, a community for them where they are able to practice their craft. I don't know. It's just like the two-faced aspect of this is so astounding to me. Like it feels like psychopathy or something. I mean, what even is that? Is that standard practice for development companies, that they just like churn out propaganda while doing exactly the opposite of what they claim to believe in?
Well, when we were talking with the mayor at the last meeting,
right?
He brought that up himself. He
right.
was like, it's like you as a business mogul or whatever, you create a narrative, so that the people in charge can repeat that narrative, and it sounds good to the people who are complaining. So it's like, if he could say, oh, well, I'm a great supporter of the arts, like I do Boston Calling, like even though everybody knows that's bullshit, and it's like he just is like in it because it's a money-making endeavor, because that's just what a business is. It's like something that, like a corporation is just something that exists to serve itself and to make money.
Yeah.
So it's like he happened to support this money-making endeavor, Boston Calling, which could be, like proof or whatever that he's into the arts. And so that then can be regurgitated by the mayor who's trying to, get people to not be upset with the situation because, oh, well, he loves the art,
Right. And I mean, that's what it seems to, that's what it seems to come down to, is like the meaning of, in this context, the meaning of somebody's words there is no meaning to what their word. They're saying what they need to say to try to get done what is required to increase the amount of money that they're already making when they're already rich anyway, which is just, it's just so frustrating to me. I don't know.
And that part is fine. People, can do that, and Bill, like you said, businesses, they're like, they're not moral entities, like they just exist. But it's the mayor regurgitating the bullshit narrative of him being like a lover of of the arts. That's where it's wrong, because his only job is to protect like the rights of the citizens, private citizens. Yeah. And so it's like, if he, like, that's obviously bullshit, and that's obviously like a thing that somebody would say just to market it differently or whatever, or like make it so that nobody that part of it is bullshit.
Right. Yeah, but I won't worry too much. It's not gonna work for his advantage, because right now he is picking a fight with. Well, he just shit all over the artists of Cambridge. He just shit all over a goddamn community, dude.
Oh, are you talking about John DiGiovanni?
It makes it seem like he's supporting the arts because he's donating or whatever the fuck he's supporting Boston Calling. It's not going to work for his advantage right now. So,
Right.
so that's, that just shows you how much he knows about the arts, dude. It shows you how much he cares about it, dude.
Right.
It's so blatant that dude, it's not going to work. You can say you support the arts all you want, dude, but right now, you just fucked over a community, man.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, I don't know, it's so weird because this letter about Boston Calling, I think, was written on March 20th. I'm not sure if that's when, I think that was after people started making noise about the EMF eviction on the internet to a certain degree. But it just makes you wonder whether there was some kind of meeting that happened at Trinity Property Management where they're like, oh, people are saying that we're not good to the arts because we're kicking a whole bunch of artists out of the community that they love. We better write a letter about how we like Boston Calling and imagination and love are the best thing. Is this, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm glad they wrote it because it shows their true colors.
It's a narrative that, like, the mayor who wants to support whatever Paul DiGiovanni does because he gets money from him or whatever, it's like it's a narrative that's been proposed that he can then repeat.
Well, look, I don't know. It's like, think
about it.
I don't know. Mark, the mayor, Mark McGovern, seems to be well-meaning with all of this. I don't know. I don't know the guy that well. To fill anybody in, we did last week. There was, I think it was City Councilman Quinton Zondervan who put an initiative on the agenda at the City Council meeting to try to have an arts overlay in Cambridge, which is some kind of policy tool where there are incentives for, I guess, business owners and to maintain arts in the area or something. It's kind of unclear what it really is. It's a zoning thing of some kind. So some of us did go over to the city council meeting to talk about this situation, and there was a conversation with the mayor that took place where people were sort of asking him about where he stood about all of this. And I don't know. To me, it seems unclear what the city can actually do in this context. I mean, they have mentioned that they were looking into the idea of, like, well, what if another building could be secured? They could function as an art space or a practice space, and I don't know. Hey, I mean, that would be fantastic if it were possible.
That would be beautiful.
That would be amazing.
But is it possible?
I don't know.
Possible?
I'm not sure. It's hard to tell if they're just
hold us off for a little while.
I don't know.
So we don't make a big commotion, dude. And then they fuck us in the head anyways, dude.
I don't know.
That guy's gonna sell his building to whatever the hell he wants to do. We'll be too late to fucking do anything about it. We gotta keep getting louder, dude. We gotta this is ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. It's unclear to me.
EMF or something.
Yeah.
I heard somebody found human remains at the EMF building. I heard that there's a really rare species of bald eagle that nests on the roof of the EMF building.
Yeah, I heard that too.
And
it could be considered a church as far as I'm concerned, dude, because I went there for religious reasons, pretty much.
Oh man, you know what?
I found my inner Becky at EMF.
You did?
Well, yeah.
I heard that Paul DiGiovanni is trying to turn the EMF building into a Scientology recruiting center.
Yeah.
And so I called the Scientologist to see, and it was they hadn't heard about it yet, but I told them. And so they're coming. So they're gonna.
Oh, so they'll be there. Oh, okay. Oh, great.
All seriousness, what's this going on Monday? What's that going to do?
On Monday? I don't know. It's unclear to me. I mean, so basically there's been an initiative put on the agenda for the City Hall meeting to have John P. DiGiovanni work with the city manager to try to give people more time to move out of EMF. So I don't know. It's something. It's something.
I mean, I'd like it if they extended the time, so that the whole building could find a different building in Cambridge. I would prefer if they said something like Paul DiGiovanni, you're not allowed to evict them until they find a suitable replacement building. They'd have a building in no time.
That would be
man. That would be
ideal,
awesome, man. But the possibility of that
would be fair, But generally speaking, our society isn't fair.
What's the possibility of actually getting fair, dude?
Yeah, I don't know. It might not be that high. But I mean, it is an interesting test.
I think that it would, if we could bother them enough, it's like he would benefit just maybe from just selling the building to the city,
He might.
Like if it was enough of a pain in the ass.
If there were enough breakdancers breakdancing on top of all the construction equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Audubon Society freaking out about the rare eagles that breed up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
We should fight fire. We should fight fire with our own fire. Find a rich celebrity that wants to jump on the bandwagon of actually liking local artists and actually liking art, and then he could take over a building and help us out in a publicity stunt that's going to make him even more popular in other medias, man. We should start looking for a rich guy.
You never know.
That's what I'm saying. We should start looking
We might just have the guy.
Who do you think the guy is?
Mark Cuttersaw.
What's that? What?
I don't know. I think we could whip something up. I think we could whip it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You never know. Maybe we could whip something up. I guess we'll have to see about that. Maybe we should look into it. Well, I mean, look, one thing I wanted to say is, I do think a number of the people on the city council and in the city, I do think their intentions are good. I don't think they're necessarily deliberately bullshitting us. And, it's possible. You never know. Maybe there is an outside shot that they could secure a different building. But I guess it does concern me, the outcome that we don't want to have happen is for, the city to take on this role of just sort of managing outrage. Because people are outraged, and I think they're rightfully outraged. So that's not the outcome that we want. Is for the city to just be oh, we're here to listen to you. We're here to listen, and then everybody's spoken and been listened to, and then nothing happens. But who knows? Maybe the city can actually do something. I don't know.
That's probably what's gonna happen, dude.
Maybe. It'll be an interesting test.
Movement out of this, so let's say people actually really care and come together, and we get some attention.
Well, there's been some attention. I mean, Mark Levy from Cambridge Today has written a couple articles. It's pretty local. Actually, he wrote one, and there's a couple of more articles on the way, so far as I know, from some other publications. But I did want to talk about Mark Levy wrote a really funny article where he was comparing what is going on with EMF, where we have a scrappy group of people trying to save the community center. He was pointing out how there are so many 80s movies that are very similar to this. Let me read one very quick outtake, or one quick excerpt from that article. It hasn't gone unnoticed that DiGiovanni and the development arm behind the EMF evictions, called Ledgemore, are basically recapitulating the plot of countless movies from the 1980s. Evil developer comes in and threatens to destroy the local rec center, youth center, orphanage, or whatever, leaving the scrappy underdogs to have to figure out a way to save it. You'll find it in everything from Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo to It's a Very Muppet Christmas Movie. I've actually never seen It's a Very Muppet Christmas Movie. I had to look that up. It's from the early 2000s. I bet Muppet Christmas Carol's probably better. That's a great movie. Great version of the Christmas Carol.
I'm surprised there's no Ernest movie that's like that.
Oh, there totally is. The first Ernest, not quite Ernest Goes to Camp is basically like that. That's what it is. Oh. Yeah. It's because it basically revolves around Ernest being stupid and accidentally signing over the camp to these developers who want to destroy it and turn it into something. And then the kids have to band together and create this bizarre vehicle out of lashed together wood that has catapults and stuff on it. And they're I don't know, I think they're shooting pies at the developers, driving away the construction crews, stuff like that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm an engineer, Steven.
That's right, yeah. Well, if you want to put together some kind of vehicle like in the end of Ernest Goes to Camp, maybe that would be a good project. The city has so many 3D printers.
I'll have it by Monday.
Fabrication technologies just laying around in the city, right?
Yeah, streets are littered with them.
Yeah, and we still got a month before they close down the building, so we got a place to work at it.
True, yeah. Just build it in the parking lot out there. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to find this Ernest Goes to Camp clip. But the show must go on.
What if we, like, spread ghost stories about the building? Like, tell people it's haunted.
They'll tear it down quicker, man.
Well, I mean, it is in Massachusetts, so there's a good chance it's built on an Indian burial ground, right?
I'm pretty sure I saw some Indian human remains with EMF.
Oh, right, yeah, I think there's a scene where Ernest, they have a giant catapult made out of a rowboat, and they have these turtles that they launch out of the catapult made out of a rowboat, and the turtles all have these, here it is, they've got parachutes, and they're all parachuting down on the construction workers. They're snapping turtles, landing on the construction workers here at the end of Ernest Goes to Camp, scaring them away. They've got to run off. What are they going to do? They're going to keep destroying this camp that these kids love with a bunch of snapping turtles descending from the skies upon them with parachutes? I don't think so. So
day. Nobody's that heartless.
Yeah, I forgot about that. There's so many movies with that storyline. If only real life had that storyline more often. I mean, with the victorious part at the end. Oh, they're also launching lanterns at them, which just exploded one of their trucks. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Do you guys want to get into the question of, like, all right, so there's this Malden building that Bob Logan has been encouraging everybody to move to? What is going on with that? We don't know. That's all, like, there's all these rumors floating around about it. But, I mean, basically the rumor floating around about it, which, nobody's been able to verify or confirm or deny yet. The rumor is that it, might actually also, the Trinity, the company that's throwing everybody out of EMF, might also have a hand in that. So who knows? True or not, we don't know. It certainly doesn't seem like you can.
More, the second they can make $10 more fucking renting it to fucking storage, dude, they'll get rid of all the artists there too.
And it's like not a good business model typically for renting practice spaces is like telling people that the building exists and that the practice spaces exist, but refusing to let them know where.
Oh, yeah.
Right. There is that strange thing that's going on right now, right? Like, the building exists. It's everybody's, it's going to save everyone. Everyone's going to be able to move out to this Malden building, which is kind of far away. But for whatever reason, it has not been announced where it is, or who owns it. So that's a little strange. It seems fishy, I guess.
Yeah. Well, but what it really is like neighborhood revitalization, like it's like you take a bunch of artists and like a thriving community and you like displace them and move them someplace where there's really no reason to be there. And so it makes the property worth more,
Right.
So I feel like that's probably what's going on.
Artist communities are fixing neighborhoods, and then they're getting kicked out to worse neighborhoods so they can fix them too.
Presumably. Well, and that's the other thing is like to what extent are these developers like just kind of is there this thing that happens where artists in a way get used by these development companies because artists are willing to move into neighborhoods where, your white picket fence upper middle class people don't want to go because it's a little bit dicey. And then through this process of the artist being there and improving the area over time, the white picket fence people are a little bit more like, oh, I guess that place is okay. We could go there. And then developers are like, all right. And
I love the local charm.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
Let's not go to Applebee's today, Harold. Let's go to this new place that the artists have. They got all this wacky art on the walls. It'll be so cool. We could bring the kids.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see a band and they can get the autographs. Oh, that will be so exciting, Harold.
Yeah. Well, anyway, even though for some reason the location of the new Some Studios in Malden has not been announced yet, I'm pretty sure I found out where it is because if you just do a Google search for Some Studios, there's a pending trademark which is located out of 730 Eastern Avenue, number 93 in Malden, and also in the Vanyalan article, Bob Logan says that some studios is by the bike path, and if you go to Google Maps, that address is by the bike path. So that's probably what it is. It's like right next to the police station out there. I did a little bit of looking around on the internet and went to the Secretary of State's website and found out who does own that building. But the thing is, like, you can never really... The thing is with these shell corporations, and with Ledgemore being the official owner of EMF, while it seems to all trace back to Trinity Property Management, I guess there's no way to tell exactly who is involved in this, company that owns that property out in Malden. Now, the company that owns the property out in Malden... let me get this opened up. 1 second. I believe I have the link here. Nope, now I'm clicking on the wrong link. Anyway, I think the company is called Eastern Industrial Malden. But the thing is, like, with these records of companies, it seems like all you can find out is who the resident agent is, right? Which can be like an attorney who sets up at a company. It can be the person who owns the company. In this case, it says it's the manager, and this is somebody named Raymond S. Follite. Who is a guy who apparently works with his brother, Ronald Follite. They have another company called Follite Bros, LLC. It's some kind of HVAC repair thing. I think Raymond Follite, if you Google him, appears to be famous for possibly... I don't know if embezzling is the right word, but it might be, like, embezzling $1.3 million. I don't know. There's an article from Boston.com called "State Builders Hid Cash. Town might get back 1.3 million. Town might get 1.3 million back." And I don't know if I can find the relevant piece of that.
Wow.
But whatever.
So
we don't need to
pay taxes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who this guy. I mean, but that's the other thing is, like, whoever the guy is who owns the other place, whether he's related to John P. DiGiovanni or not, or whether they have some kind of deal worked out. Also seems to be somebody who... I mean, he's a guy who has articles written about him from 2007 about how he may have, like, just hidden $1.3 million and held on to it. So it just really makes you wonder, like, about this whole... Like, how much corruption is going on behind the scenes in the world of, land developers, Is that just the norm, I don't know.
Well, they're making the most money nowadays, dude, especially in like, a city like Boston, dude.
Yeah.
Look at East Boston, dude. East Boston's got like a whole new goddamn neighborhood that's being built like by the waterfront, dude. It's like it takes up several blocks, man. Like a lot of big buildings with a lot of units, dude.
Yeah.
You look at Southeast is like jam packed. Every other corner there's like a new building going up, dude. Mm-hmm. Like holy shit, dude. It's like the city's expanding really fast, dude. And a lot of fucking people are gonna be coming in, dude. And then, and what? You can't live in the city and have like a goddamn art space or a practice space, dude. It's all so ridiculous, man.
Well, I mean, that seems to be the case. It's like, due to the changes that are happening in the city, there are certain forms of accepted activity or certain forms of activity that will provide a human being with enough money to exist and do what they want to do in this area. And there are many forms of activity that won't. And the forms of activity that won't include, like, not having a good enough job to, pay rent here and doing art and things like that.
Those jobs are necessary. Like, who is gonna work at the restaurants? Who's gonna work at, like, doing building maintenance and stuff like that? It's like, so those jobs are still necessary, but the people who perform them are either going to have to only perform those jobs just for the privilege of being able to go home, go to sleep, wake up, and perform that job again.
Right, and drive an hour into the city or something,
Yeah. Or drive an hour into the city and maybe have, like, some leisure time. Like, the whole reason that we have government is to, like, protect the individual, like, citizens against, like, being enslaved by, companies, because there's no land anymore that you can just, like, go and grow, like, vegetables. You have to work to be able to survive, and you have to be able to make money in order to eat, and you have to work for these companies. So like they, without regulation, it's like they don't have to allow you more than just like what is required to keep a person alive, and that's like slavery.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they will get away with what they can get away with in order to maximize their profits. Whatever the human cost.
Right. But so it's the government's job to regulate that, to make sure that people can still achieve like happiness and, and still perform those jobs that need to be done, because who's going to, in all these MIT office buildings, is there one person who would like volunteer to take out the trash? No.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, well, and I guess that is what government's job should be. And I think there have been times in American history where government has, to varying degrees, accomplished those kinds of goals. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I guess, which is why I think it's an interesting test, like trying to work with Cambridge City government, but also trying to do that without it becoming a thing where people just get distracted by working with the Cambridge government and then nothing gets done. I don't know. That's a hard. It's a hard line to straddle. That's why they break up monopolies.
Because if you were to not like intervene in like in laissez-faire economics, if you were just like allowed to just like if you just let businesses grow however large they got, it would be like they would just buy up all the rest of them and then eventually be more powerful than the government. Right. Which is maybe kind of what we're seeing right now. Which is
probably what's already going on in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, okay, so I do think people should come to the city council meeting on Monday, and I think they should speak. And I think even if people, if you give a shit about any of this anyway, if this is something you care about, if you care about EMF, if you care about community, if you care about similar places, whoever you are, I think you should come out. I think it starts at 5:30 p.m. You can sign up to talk online beforehand, or when you get there, I think before 6 p.m., you can sign up to talk. That is at 700-something Mass Ave in Central Square, I think. It's a city council building. Can't miss it. Old-looking building with a tower on it. And it's going to be up on the second floor. So I think people should come out to that. I wanted to make sure that we got that announced anyway. But I was going to ask, what do you guys think? How do you think Peter Valentine plays into all of this?
He's got the key, man. He's going to save us all.
I hope so. Peter Valentine is an interesting older fellow who lives not far from EMF. And he was also a big lover of the Out of the Blue Gallery. He used to come in there all the time. And, that's been taken away now, unfortunately.
But he would watch Tom Tipton and how he would like huff and puff and pace around and scream at shit all the time. And he'd think to himself in his head like that he was probably going to die soon, and he would worry about him because Tom is just very, easily aggravated, and he's getting older, and so he had this idea that he wanted to, quote, creepy crawly into rubbing Tom Tipton's feet to like perform electromagnetic martial arts to make him live longer, which I think is like a very noble thing to do. And it's like, so what do I think about Peter Valentine, like in this whole situation? It's like, those like really, really old churches that are still around, but they're packed between like these plastic houses with the vinyl siding, and it's like everything looks so new and strange and foreign, and it's just like packed around this old church.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what his house is like. It's like a vestige of the past, and it's like the last remaining like nod to what used to be, I guess.
Right, like a final vestige that remains of what is, more or less an authentic culture that kind of predates all of this cookie cutter shit that keeps moving in, you know? Which is not to say that all of the cookie cutter, the cookie cutter shit's kind of bad. I mean, a lot of the tech stuff and the university stuff that's going on in Cambridge is great, you know? It's good. It's a positive thing for the future of humanity. But why is it that along with that, we have to allow all these big chain restaurants and land developers to just run amok however they want to? So I hope there is a way that people can find to fight back against this and to assert themselves as people just living in a space and their rights to just exist in a space and as they choose, you know? But I don't know. I don't know. Did you guys have other stuff you wanted to talk about?
I got nothing.
Yeah. Is that about it? Have we about covered it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we should finish up then. Thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Steve Me Alone tonight. We appreciate having your ears here, paying attention to what we're talking about. If you do care about this kind of thing and you're in the Boston area, please come out to the Cambridge City Hall starting at 5:30. You can comment publicly about this situation with the developers and with the EMF building. I want everybody to stay strong. Who knows? Maybe there are other things we can do. Maybe we're not completely beaten yet. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to find out as time goes on. But anyway, thanks Neil, and thanks Maddie for joining me today. I think we're going to write out this episode with a clip from the documentary film that I made about the EMF building back in 2014. So thanks for being here, everybody. Here is the clip.
Tell. I always feel like I'm asking myself, has this thing changed me? It definitely has. This place has changed me tremendously. I find these kindred spirits here, and that there are other people, the people who live and die and suffer for the same things that are important to me. This is where we congregate, and this is a special place where we can be safe and kind of not have to worry about someone being like, hey, okay, quit doing that and go force yourself to be doing some other thing that you're supposed to be doing. In the textbooks, like when you talk about like, oh, these artists and they shared ideas and they sat in these places, we kind of like picture these like textbook hallways and but they were real people, and they had similar dreams that they shared and they talked about together, and they existed in these social places that are like the place that I'm sitting in right now talking to you. And that's what's so incredible about this place. It's a real live textbook. It's what I learned about in school. It's what I've known about and worked for from the beginning. There's this craziness that this building has, this supernatural claw that it kind of, people who have this kind of itch in the back of their head for something in the middle of the night, it has this special whisper to those people. It's like a religious center, like maybe a temple where someone would pray. Like here, like listening to music and drawing, you can have religious experiences as moving as someone would have in like a church. It's like as moving and spiritually striking that like kind of recontextualize your existence and the meaning of yourself in the universe. And the tank is definitely a place of ideas of different people that can kind of share and expand these different things, and they grow, and it's like a place where dreams can actually become something that you can hold, and that's extraordinary.